When you look back at Sam's career with the Jets, how much do you blame Sam? How much do you obviously blame the horrific circumstances that he dealt with during his 3 years in New York?
Well, let's see. Sam Darnold's just a long line of players drafted in the first round by the Jets that didn't stick around for a second contract, right? Jamal Adams isn't there. Sheldon Richardson's not there. You look at their draft picks over the last few years, I don't think that's on Sam. Look, to me, if the Jets had done with Sam Darnold what the Bills have done with Josh Allen, we might be having a very different discussion, right? I mean, they found a quarterback they believed in through the draft process. They decided to give him weapons and build around him and be patient with him. And lo and behold, what happened to Josh Allen this year? We're talking about a guy who was in the top 3 of the MVP voting. So I can't look at the career of Sam Darnold and say, well, the Jets aren't a part of it. The Jets are the biggest part of it. I mean, they're the Jets. And I certainly hope that Joe Douglas, the GM there, turns it around. And I think Robert Saleh was a great hire. But I think all the skepticism belongs on the Jets because they're the Jets. I mean, let's be honest about it. They have not been a very good franchise for almost their entire existence. So I put most of it on the Jets and very few of it on Sam Darnold.
I agree, and I'm a diehard Jets fan, so I echo everything that you just said there.
You know the pain. You know the pain.
Yes, I do all too well. Plenty of pain. Now, I'll say this about Joe Douglas, who you brought up there. If he can't fix this team, then I don't know if anyone can, because the Jets now have 21 picks over the next 2 drafts. I thought his first draft with Becton, Ashton Davis, and Denzel Mims was a pretty solid, first draft for a GM. If he can't turn this team around, can anyone do it? Is he the right guy in your mind, Trey, to hit on some of these picks and get things right?
Well, we'll find out. You know what I mean? Like, I hate to do this, but as the Zen philosopher says, we'll see. I mean, that's the only honest way to answer this. I mean, now, I think they've done a great job amassing picks. But it only matters if they pick the right players or turn those things into things of value. So I'll give you an example. You're right. I thought they did a great job last year, Joe Douglas with the Jets. They took Mekhi Becton. It was the absolute right thing to do. And there were a lot of wide receivers that had first-round grades on them that fell into the second round. One of them was Denzel Mims. He was okay. He wasn't great. He was okay. This draft or last year's draft will be better for Joe Douglas if in 2 years Denzel Mims becomes a guy who plays like a first-rounder. But if he doesn't, then it's not a great draft for them. And the other thing, which is really interesting, which people need to understand about the draft, you can make the right selection and still have it not work out. There's a difference between a bad draft pick and a bust. Those are different things. And if you don't mind, let me explain. There's not a person in the world in 1998 that didn't think Ryan Leaf was the second pick or as good as or maybe better than Peyton Manning. That was the consensus of the draft analysis at the time. So for the Chargers to get roasted for taking Ryan Leaf when it didn't work out, that's false. That's fodder. They made the right pick. It just didn't work. There's a difference between a bust and a bad draft pick. A bad draft pick is what GM Jason Light did when he traded into the second round to take Alberto Aguayo, the kicker, who was a disaster. Now, you don't need to trade up in the second round to draft a kicker. He was the only kicker drafted that year, which tells you nobody else was clamoring for Alberto Aguayo. That's a bad draft pick. The other thing is a bust. There are two very different things.
Great point. Trey Wingo with us here talking all things NFL with the longtime broadcaster. You look at the Jets, Trey. I mean, they're going to be sitting there. We know they're going to take a quarterback second overall. A lot of debate on who that guy should be. All signs point to Zach Wilson being the guy. If you were Joe Douglas, based on what you know about these quarterbacks, would Zach Wilson be the quarterback you would take in that spot?
It's interesting, right? I mean, every year we see this guy's the next this guy's the next that in terms of quarterbacks. And very rarely does that happen. I mean, it's about a 50% hit rate on being a good starter. So when you hear all these draft evaluators and pro day scouts and all these people, well, he looks like the next this, he looks like the next that. We say the words, he's the next this or the next that guy because those guys were great. And you hope that works out. But just let's look at the last few years in the draft, okay? First 2 picks of the 2015 draft, Wentz and Goff on different teams. First 2 picks of the 2015 draft, Winston and Mariota on different teams that drafted them. 2017, Mitchell Trubisky on a different team, first quarterback off the board. It's very difficult to get this right. And I believe that all the metrics indicate that Zach Wilson should be the pick. But again, There are the metrics that indicate what the pick should be, and then there's performance of the actual pick. So they could take Zach Wilson, and it makes all the sense in the world, and doing it for the right reasons, and it still may not work out. I mean, that was the Sam Darnold choice just a few years ago, right?
Thanks for watching the full YouTube video. If you like what you saw, then please subscribe to my page for more content. Thank you.